And we come to you from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Kind of odd, we're here on a Wednesday. Normally it's Thursdays from 12:30 to 1:30. We're out here on a Wednesday this week because the Buffaloes have a Friday night game. We're going to be at the Coliseum in Los Angeles on Friday night. The Buffs will take on number 8 USC, 5:30. Gary and I and Jeff Soup Campbell are going to hit the air with the Buffalo Stampede pregame show, and then the Buffs and the Trojans will kick it off at 7:30. Colorado coming off the loss to the Oregon Ducks last week, also the number 8 team in the country. 49-10 the final there. And coming up in the show, besides Mike Sanford, we've got Mark Smith is going to join us, outside linebackers coach, and also Guy Thomas will be with us here today. So as we kind of talk things over, a lot to talk about, kind of a going back home, if you will, for Mike Sanford here this week. That's kind of interesting. I don't think fans know how much time you spent at USC.
I think it is actually the longest I've ever been in one place for my 40 years on this earth. But yeah, 8 years really on the sidelines at the Coliseum. My dad coached the wide receivers there, had a tremendous run with Keyshawn Johnson, Curtis Conway, Johnny Morton, a really good crew.
He was a brilliant coach during those years.
He was. It's funny how sometimes players make you look smart.
Isn't that truth? I'm not sure folks understand what kind of player your dad was. He was a pretty darn good player back then.
He was actually a national recruit out of the Bay Area. Had offers from Stanford, from Notre Dame, from USC that broke his collarbone his senior year, and his backup ended up being my father-in-law. So it's funny how that kind of works out. But yeah, he's he started a game at SC and was backed up two fantastic players, Pat Hayden and Vince Evans.
He got Wally pipped by his father-in-law.
He did.
Think about that for a second. That's interesting. Yeah, so for a number of your formative years, we're on the sidelines at USC as a ball boy and holding cords for your dad?
Yeah, actually my dad was up in the press box majority of that time. Mike Riley was the offensive coordinator for much of it, and I was a football gym rat. Just grew up around training camp. Yeah. We used to have training camp down at UC Irvine, and I used to stay with my dad for two weeks, 3 weeks, and there's a lot of memories. But what I'm excited about is being able to go back. I'll have 16, 20 family members there, and I've had some great memories on the other sideline as well. Sure. Starting with the Stanford 2007 game, at the Coliseum. So, this is a special place. I've had a chance to be a part of a lot.
We'll talk more about USC coming up here in a few minutes in the second segment with Mike, but let's go ahead and kind of just glance back at the Oregon game on Saturday. Buffs went out, pretty competitive first half. You ended up falling 49-10 in that one. Injuries we got to talk about, but what's your postscript on the Duck game?
Well, obviously, I thought the fight was there. I think there's been an energy. There's been I think a resolve through 4 quarters. The problem, obviously, is we have to play really, really clean football to be able to give ourselves a chance against these top 10 teams in the country. And that's really, no matter what state your program's in, you have to play, almost error-free football because their rosters are so stinking good. But what I was proud of is I thought that the defense didn't start strong, and then I thought they put together a better second half. I thought the offense made some plays, just finishing drives with points. It was an extremely windy game, probably the windiest game I've been a part of. Yeah. So, I think we learned a lot of lessons about, coverage stuff and, how to bottle up a quarterback that's that athletic. I mean, you got basically back-to-back Heisman candidates, maybe Heisman finalists in these two guys.
Dan Lanning, I thought it was interesting. He kind of brought out, went deep into the playbook against you guys.
Yeah.
Tackle eligible touchdown, a throwback to the quarterback. I mean, he was going deep into the back.
Yeah, I've been a part of that. A couple times in my career when you're 9-1, 8-1. You get some feel good plays in there. Sure. And obviously, like what I've said, a lot of trick plays and play design. They're effective when a defense has to defend 53 and a third laterally and and sell out to stop a run. I mean, they're a really good roster. So obviously, some stuff that we learned from it. But I think that we had guys in position, but when you do get that eye candy, it's challenging not to chase it.
Gary made a comment during the broadcast that was interesting about our young football team and plays like that. For example, when you get a tackle coming in, he's eligible. On the throwback, when the running back on the snap steps back instead of coming forward. And in the things that young players learn over the course of time to identify and understand, there's some keys out there. I need to mentally make those plays. That's part of the growing process, isn't it?
It is, and like I've said a lot, I think the importance of making sure that we, as a program, just continue to develop these young players, make their experience a very positive one going into the offseason, and then obviously holding on to those young players that are contributing because you want those growing pains to yield fruit, and I think that's ultimately what we're doing right now is growing with a young roster.
I want to ask you about the offensive line. As I'm watching them with the naked eye the last few weeks, I'm seeing some growth, I think. The sack numbers are down. Didn't give up a sack last week against Oregon. As you evaluate them, what do you see?
I see a group that's starting to play really well together. Protection was very good. And I thought top to bottom that was probably going to be the best D-line we'd see all year, maybe one of the top 3 or 4 in the country. And for us to be able to throw it, without JT being in position to have to scramble the entire game was really a credit to that group and a credit to Coach DeVan and the work that he's doing. And even schematically we're doing offensively to make sure that we're not dropping back, taking 3 hitches and just kind of let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. You're seeing a lot of run pass option, balls out of our hand really quick. I think it all plays together. And frankly, as an offensive coaching staff, I think we're playing to our strengths as opposed to just kind of throwing ourselves out to the wolves. And a lot of that is, they're more risk-adverse plays, but, the sack fumbles and things that happen like that, I think those are becoming fewer and far between.
The snapping issues last week, and it wasn't just either Van or Austin. Both guys seem to be having some issues out there. What was it? Was it snap issues? Was it quarterback receiving issues? Was it wind issues? What were you finding?
I think it was really a combination of all 3,
yeah.
And like I was saying, like you have to play clean football to give yourself a chance to go win. I think the win, particularly in the fourth quarter, led to a very a moving ball. You saw that even with Oregon's backup quarterback was struggling catching the snap.
Yep.
But there's some stuff from a communication standpoint. We do change up our tempos a little bit, and therefore the cadences do change up as well. Mm-hmm. Just making sure that at the quarterback position that, number one, we're fielding the snap because the ball is by far the most important thing that we possess in a game of football. And, taking care of the snap and then obviously the communication of the cadence is where we got to continue to grow.
Yeah. Is Van coming along where he might be back out there primarily?
I think so, yeah. Van was nursing an injury. He's had a great week of practice. He's been wanting to be out there as the primary player, and I think you'll see a lot of him this week.
He's an exciting player. When you look at him, valuing him as a center, what are the important qualities you have to have at that position that he's got?
Well, athleticism. His first step is, I would call it, as good as I've seen. Right. And obviously if you're going to run some outside zone, you got to take a greater angle, a la Denver Broncos back in the early 2000s. He's got that ability, to cut off because of his athleticism. He's also, he's maybe a slightly underweight right now. He's a true freshman.
He's about 290, 85?
Probably 282.
Okay. On a good day?
Slightly underweight, but we haven't seen him really be overmatched this year, which is a credit to obviously his physical attributes and also the technique he's playing with.
Right. Playing some very good football. Let's get to the tough conversation about that ball game. Here Jordan Tyson's developing into a dynamic talent for the Colorado Buffaloes. He's got 2 100-yard games. His last 3 touchdowns, if I got them correctly, 58, 88, and 81 yards. Had a big play. Pulled the Buffs within 21-7. And then he goes out and takes a nasty shot to the knee. And it was pretty apparent at that time. It didn't look good when he went down. Kind of got rolled up from behind. Bring fans up to date kind of how he's doing. Because a lot of times when a young guy goes through that, it's not so much the football player dealing with it, it's the human being because they're probably devastated by it.
Yeah, obviously it was tough news for all of us. I think the first thing that was so challenging was seeing how much pain he was in, physical pain, and that really lasted for, 18, 24 hours. So we have the best medical team, Doc McCarthy and his staff, and obviously Andrew Hamster. I think we did a great job as a program of wrapping our arms around him and also his family. He had a tremendous family outpouring of support that was physically at the
and had a lot of folks here this last week.
Lots,
right?
And we've been able to put some things in place for a plan. He wants to get surgery as soon as possible, and that's obviously going to be. We're going to make sure we get him in there so that his recovery is expedient because he's so athletic. He loves this game, and his teammates, every single one of his teammates that was in the locker room went into the training room, gave him a big hug, and just for him to know how much he means to our team and to me, to all of us in the CU football family, I think that put him in better spirits.
That's really a change in those kind of injuries from, let's say, 15 years ago. They used to jump in and do those right away. Now they kind of wait a while, don't they, to do those type of surgeries, allow the swelling to go down.
That's a big part of it. It's just inflammation management is always a critical piece of the puzzle so that you give yourself I think you're seeing now, what the surgeries that used to be 12 months of recovery are now 7, 8, 9 months. So I think he's going to be back on the road to recovery very quickly.
Mike, where was he making advancements? He's always been a great talent, physically speaking. But where was he growing as a player that allowed him to be more effective here the last maybe month of the season?
I think his route running was superb. And also just his knowledge of what we were doing offensively. Yeah. That was where you saw a lot of the growth. And, I just loved even his conditioning was he was playing into a role that he probably wasn't prepared to play into. You think about how many freshmen we're playing with right now that really weren't opening day starters. Yep. He's one of those guys, and it's almost like working into your conditioning, and then his confidence level is going through the roof. And he just went to a place where he was just having fun being himself out there.
It's amazing when a young guy kind of gets to that point where they get there and they think, okay, I'm talented, but it's all brand new, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I can play here.
Yep.
What changes for a player when kind of the mind all of a sudden starts to believe, isn't it?
Jordan's one of those guys that I felt like just believed it all along.
Yeah,
I really do. Yeah. I mean, certainly other guys you're kind of. I think Owen. There was a point in time when McCown's sitting there like, can I really do this for the long haul? And Jordan's one of those guys. I think playing quarterback as a true freshman is different than playing receiver as a true freshman. But he was a guy that we saw in fall camp. Like I saw with my own eyes. I'm like, that dude can play.
Yeah. You could see it being out there, being Gary and I out in practice all the time, and number 4 is like, ooh, that guy's got a little something different.
There were a lot of oohs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great player. Well, it's good to hear he's doing well under the circumstances right now, and we'll look forward to seeing him back in the field the next season. Buffalo's on the road against USC on Friday night, 7:30, pregame at 5:30 in the Colorado Football Network. Coming up next, we're going to continue with Mike Sanford. Mark Smith still to come. The outside linebackers coach, and Guy Thomas is going to join us during our player segment as well. We're here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder, back on Buffs Primetime in a moment. This is Colorado Football from Learfield. Hey, today's Coaches Show brought to you by the Post Chicken and Beer with 7 Colorado Front Range locations. The Post brews delicious award-winning beers and fries up the crispiest, juiciest hot chicken around. Pride Chicken and Beer go together like black and gold football. Stop by the Post for all your game time provisions. And for next week's show, next week we're back out here on Thursday. This week it's Wednesday because it's a Friday road game. And so we'll be traveling tomorrow. And by the way, next week I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina with the basketball team, I beg your pardon, next week. They're playing in that event down there on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And so we're going to have I think it's an early afternoon game next Thursday. But our women's basketball voice, Corey Lopez, is going to be here to host the show. So
next man up.
Yeah, be kind to him next week. Well, take care.
Next man up.
That's right. So, basketball underway. Big news for men's basketball today. A very highly recruited kid just signed with Tad today. So that's good news. They're off to a 1-0 start. They play on Friday and by the way, there's a quick programming note for our network out there. On Friday, Gary and I and Soup are going to go on the air at 5:30 to Football Network with Mike and the USC Trojans. And about the same time in Grambling, Louisiana, the basketball game is going to happen. And so that'll be on some of the other network affiliates out there. So that time of year when football and basketball is growing. Hey, you went out to the basketball game on Monday night, I saw.
Yeah, it was fun. We've been working crazy hours.
Sure, short week.
It's really Sunday and Monday in particular, and it was good to be able to just step out a little bit and go support Tad and the fellows. I think it was Neek.
Clifford.
Yeah, Neek Clifford. He and I were riding an elevator earlier in the day, at lunchtime, and he asked me, "Coach, you coming?" I said, I don't think so. And I was like, no, I'll be there to support you. So I stayed for a little bit, about 20 minutes, and really like what I'm seeing out of that squad. Great energy. Yeah. They're really fun to watch.
Yep. A lot of young talent, exciting talent on that team. And so the Buffs have got Grambling and basketball on Friday night. Then we'll be in Nashville on Sunday as the Buffs will take on number 11 Tennessee. All right, short week this week. Talk about what the difficulties that kind of poses for you guys.
Well, physically coming off of playing a top 10 team in the country, I think it was really important for us to get our bodies back. That's by far the most important thing. As we know, it's been a gauntlet, and really not just, Oregon, but even preceding Oregon. We played a really physical Oregon State team, had a very physical game against Cal, and Arizona State was a one-possession ball game. So when you go through this type of a stretch, just getting the players' bodies back to a spot where they feel like they can optimize their performance on Friday night was really important. So Sunday was an off day, rest and recovery, and obviously we got some flush and their bodies getting some stuff more with our strength staff and our sports med. Monday was almost a walkthrough. It really had to become our Tuesday practice, and then we got one really really good fast crisp day on Tuesday, which really simulated our Wednesday practice, and then today was another walkthrough.
All right, and it's one thing if you're the home team for a short week, right? But when you're the road team, you kind of lose that Thursday, don't you?
You do, yeah. You lose that, kind of that day of travel. Yeah. I think we have a plan in place again to make sure we get our bodies in a good spot just coming off of travel. Yeah,
the last road game we had, by the way, at Oregon State, we get off the plane in Eugene, I guess we flew into, and then we stayed in Salem and played, of course, in Corvallis. Looking out there, there's Mike out there doing calisthenics with the team on the tarmac. It was kind of a neat deal.
Yeah, I think just movement,
Right.
I mean, the old saying, and now that I'm in my 40s, the saying is motion is lotion.
Yeah.
So I think we're just getting out of your bus routine and actually breaking it up with breaking up lactic acid. I think is really important.
Yeah, well, wait till you get a little bit older there.
Yeah, this week's been one of those for me, man.
This time of year, even though they're great conditioned athletes, they're young, do you find guys struggle? I know I've talked with guys in the NFL. You get late into a season, it becomes an issue every week of them trying to get ready for that game on, in their case, Sunday. You find in college, you find the same thing, guys start to
You absolutely
drag?
do. Yeah, I mean, you have a combination of some young players that are thrust into starting roles that are, either true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. Maybe their body wasn't necessarily prepared for the daunting task of a, 7-8 game stretch of playing back to back against top teams in the country. And then you also have some guys like, Tommy Brown and Casey Roddick that are, they've played a lot of football.
Sure
and so
they have.
I think the thing that I see is there's certain players that you identify that you have to get them to Saturday, or in this case, you have to get them to Friday night. So you have to really manage their reps, if any, really at all, to be able to get to Friday and be at the best place they can be. Toby Gerhart was one that comes to mind. I was at Stanford with him. I was joking. I almost never saw him practice because his body was just always so beat up, and then he'd go out there and rush for 200, 230, and you're like, how does this guy do it?
Right.
Well, he just continues to get back in his rest and recovery, really prohibited him from practicing.
Yeah, we saw that with Philip Lindsay a few years ago.
Yep.
He got to the point where he was taking limited reps all week long because of the beating he was taking. All right, let's talk about USC. Caleb Williams. Well, first off, Lincoln Riley has done about as good a job with the transfer portal as you possibly can. I mean, you look at the two deep across the offensive side, and they are everywhere, including their quarterback. Caleb Williams, his numbers are impressive this season. 2,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, stunningly only one interception. And you were talking earlier this week at a little post-practice scrum there with the media, talking about a second play guy, the fact that he's able to do things when things break down. Tell us about the quarterback.
I'd say it's very similar to Lincoln's background and always having a quarterback that does play the second play. I'll tell you what, it makes you look like a smart coach a lot of times.
I bet it does.
Because, if the initial scheme doesn't work or you cover something to perfection, if you have that talent at quarterback that really can extend the play, get outside the pocket, maybe even hold inside the pocket for even kind of redirections of routes, you see a lot of production, and that's – that was really Baker Mayfield's entire career. Jalen Hurts, I think, is a really good first play and second play player. And I think, Caleb's definitely one of those good first play, second play players that, that I think is really helping them be a very proficient offense.
They run the ball effectively. And Travis Dye, who's an Oregon transfer, we remember him when he was with the Ducks. He's kind of a unique fellow, isn't he?
Pretty common theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
This transfer piece, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, yeah, look across.
I feel like we've said that every week.
Just look at this. So you look at Jordan Addison Pitt, Mario Williams, Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, Oklahoma, Brendan Rice. We know Brendan Rice here at Colorado. Taj Washington, Memphis. Tyrell Bynum, Washington. Dye from Oregon. Jones from Stanford. TCU's Darwin Barr. Yeah, they're everywhere across that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think, Travis Dye is an explosive play waiting to happen. You got to make sure you bottle him up. And what you got to be cognizant of is if you put all of your focus on the pass game and Caleb Williams, then Travis Dye is going to be hitting a seam. He's a one-cut back. He seems like he's one of those guys that does everything well. He's a great pass protector. He plays without the ball at a very high level. He's going to be a good NFL player.
Yeah. How about the defensive side of the ball? You look at their numbers, and a lot of transfers on that side of the ball as well. They give up 25 points a game, 142 yards, 267 yards passing. They're not great on third down, 42%. They've turned the ball over a lot now, but talk about their defense.
Yeah, I think they play advantageous football when teams are kind of getting in that panic mode and start really throwing the ball down the field. I mean, they're one of the most they create the most interceptions of anybody in our conference. And
14 interceptions they've recorded this
yeah,
year.
And also I think part of that too is it's a byproduct of having a really good pass rush. And Thule, I'm not going to give a crack at his last.
Peloto.
There we go. You got it.
Yeah.
He's a tremendous pass rusher. We thought we saw a really good defensive line last week in Oregon. I don't know that there's been a pass rushing defensive end that we've seen like Thule.
Yeah. When you've got a guy like that, and they move him around quite a bit, so you don't know where he's at, do they or not?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah. I mean, not. I mean, they want him to be on an open edge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
Do you cheat with him to try and give your tackle some help with a guy like that?
You absolutely have to, keep that in mind that he's one of those dynamic pass rushers. he's a speed to power pass rusher, but he can also, swim you up and under you. So, you need to enlist your running backs, your tight ends, and some chip protection.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be important for us. And I'm seeing a lot of growth out of our offensive line. I mean, I think that they're one of the stories that, coming from where we were a year ago to where we are right now, I think it's been a very positive transformation of a group.
Yeah, I think so. So from a quarterback perspective, you always kind of know where number 49 is, don't you?
Yeah,
if you're JT Shroud.
You have to, and I think we've done a good job too in some of our pass concepts to make sure the ball's out of our hands. I mean, it's not just drop back, take a 7-step drop, 3 hitches, and everything's going to be just fine and dandy. I mean, we're getting the ball more effectively out of our quarterback's hand, and I think that's had to do with the sack numbers decreasing.
We've got Mark Smith coming up here in a few minutes. How's it been working with him for the past season?
It's been great. Funny anecdote on Coach Smith. I recruited his high school when I believe it was at either Boise State or Stanford, and so his son Micah, I offered him a scholarship when he was like 3 or 4 years old, and he actually kept the handwritten note that I sent to him. Unfortunately, in Mark's incident with the Superior Fire, and it was burned. So
right.
I'll have to write him another letter here soon.
You're offering pretty young there, aren't you?
Yeah, it's something he didn't forget. So, anything you can do to bring a little something, a little smile out of anybody.
Without
really
question.
Important.
How about Guy Thomas? He's going to be our player guest here in a couple segments as well.
I just seen a light come on in Guy in the last 5 weeks that is just. I knew was there when I was at Minnesota and we were game planning for Colorado a year and some change ago. He was a guy that I was really scared about.
Sure.
Pun intended. He was a guy that I was scared about.
Yeah,
it's a good one. But just unbelievable work ethic. Talking to Shannon Turley, our strength coach, he's always the first one in the weight room. He's always in there on off days. He's taking tremendous care of his body. I think he has a chance to be a pro, and I think he's conducting himself like a pro, and I think it's starting to show up in his play on Saturdays and Friday nights.
All right, we're going to talk to Guy here in a couple of segments. Mark is going to join us after a quick timeout. Mike, good luck this weekend.
Hey, appreciate it, Mark.
All right, Mike Sanford, head coach for the Colorado Buffaloes as they take on USC on Friday night at the Coliseum. We're going to take a timeout. We can tell you as well that our program today is brought to us by Hilton's on Canyon. Coming to Boulder for the game. Stay at the Hilton's on Canyon, the official hotel of Colorado Athletics. Back with Mark Smith, outside linebackers coach. After this is Colorado football from Learfield. Back in Buffs Prime Time here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Hey, Buffs fans, looking for a place to cheer on the Buffaloes? Join Buff Nation for the official CU Watch Party locations in Colorado, the Schoolhouse in Arvada, and Blake Street Tavern in Denver. Time for the assistant coach segment. Linebackers coach Mark Smith joining us here for a few minutes ahead of the Buffaloes and the Trojans of USC on Friday night at 7:30. Again, the pregame on the network at 5:30. Gary Barnett, Jeff Campbell, and yours truly on Friday. First off, bring us up to date. I mean, how you guys doing family standpoint? Mike mentioned you were part of the Marshall Fire.
That's right. Family's doing great. It's been, we're over that side of the mountain now and recovering. It's a weird thing to go through, when you think you leave the house.
Everything,
yeah, you leave the house one morning and we're going to have a pizza together at Bojo's and Longmont, and then you're not going to be able to go back home.
Yeah.
So it's a strange kind of thing to go through, but this community and the support from the university has been just unbelievable. And we're rocking and rolling now. The family's doing great. Everybody's settled, and wardrobes are all back. I know you and I are the only ones that wear boots around here.
That's
but
right, yeah.
My wife said, "Hey, what's the first thing I can get you to replace in your closet?" I said, "I got to get my boots."
There you go. I like it.
Happy anniversary, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I know that was yesterday.
31 years yesterday. Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The weird thing's got to be, and Mike mentions the little recruiting letter he gave to your son.
That's right.
When you lose that kind of stuff and family photos, that kind of stuff, that's got to be the toughest thing to overcome.
That is, no question about it. It's you can get a new sectional or whatever you need for your house, but it's those things, those mementos. And that was Mike wrote that. He was at Boise State, and when we reunited here together, he was recruiting my high school. I shared with him that story, and I've never forgotten that. My son never did either.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I need a new letter, because I need the proof that exactly offer is still out there.
How old's your son right now?
He's in the 8th grade. He's 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was he was probably, oh my goodness, maybe two years old, two or three at that time. So Mike had an eye for the talent at the 2-year-old level.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got him on tape now, on video and audio.
Perfect. Thank
saying
you.
that, so the scholarship offer is still going to be there.
We'll keep this documented.
Yes. I like it. Hey, your linebackers so far. Kind of give us a sense of how that group's developed and where they are this season.
I'm so proud of them. I know you're going to talk to Guy here in just a minute. He's here a part of this segment, and then really from the transition with Mike taking over as a head coach and Coach Wilson leaving the staff. I've transitioned more to working with the outside linebacker group than the inside guys, and still kind of work with all of them together, but taking more of the primary role with the outside guys. And it's been a joy, to work with them. And Guy Thomas, Jamar Montgomery, Devin Grant, we've included Robert Barnes and Isaac Hurtado, that were with me in the inside group because we've kind of changed how we are operating defensively. But it has been an absolute joy to work with those guys. The work ethic that they come in with, just even in all of this transition, the way that they approach their daily work has just been remarkable to see, and I tell them, I said, I love these guys and I love coming to work with them every day. It really is. I've been in this situation before where we've had a coaching staff, head coach change in the middle of the season, and it wasn't this way. But our culture is strong, and that's because of the leadership of Coach Sanford. Our coach is doing a great job of instilling that with the players, and then the players ultimately buying in and doing everything that we're asking them to do.
So part of the change was you shifting a little bit, maybe your attentions, and also Jeff Smart coming in alongside.
That's right.
How's that worked with you and Jeff?
It's been great. Jeff has been my right-hand guy for 2 years now.
Okay.
In an off-the-field role. He's smart. He's bright. He understands what we want. Defensively, played linebacker here at Colorado. Has
Very
done
good linebacker.
291 tackles right here.
That's right.
Right from Boulder High.
Yep.
And so Jeff is great, and he's been wonderful. And it was an easy decision. I know whenever we had an opening on the defensive staff, and who do we have inside our building that can fill that? It was a no-brainer decision to put Jeff into that role. And I've really enjoyed my new role. I've worked with the edge guys, the outside backers, one time before, but it's been great getting back in there and getting closer to the ball a little bit more. And so it's been a great transition.
There's so many guys that have played some pretty good football. One guy I want to ask you about, just a comment about, is Josh Chandler-Samito. Him coming in from the outside, being a West Virginia transfer, gets here. And he's a guy that seems like every game I'm calling number 8 over and over and over and over again.
Another 10, 12, 13, 14 tackles. Josh has a nose for the ball, and that's what we identified in him from West Virginia. I mean, he's a tackling machine, and he was at West Virginia as well. And when we knew we needed to get one guy from the transfer portal in last year's class, Josh became the top target that we had. And I'm certainly glad that he chose to come to Colorado. He's been a great player here. Not only is he a great player, but he's a great teammate. He has great leadership skills, and he's fit right in. And he does it just in a humble way. Josh just goes to work, and he's more about watch me than listen to everything that I say. And he's been a great example for especially our young players to see this is how a veteran guy goes about their business. So we're grateful that he's a part of our defense.
With that being said, is there a vocal guy in this group of linebackers?
I really believe we have a really good mix of everybody in there. I think if you're looking at that list right there, probably Quinn Perry, probably the most vocal of all of them. Communicating out on the field in the locker room and everything else is probably Quinn's more strong suit than the rest. But there's different types of leadership. Like Josh is just kind of watch how I work, watch how I operate. Not that Josh is quiet. I mean, Josh will communicate and do everything he needs to do as well. But just from a straight vocal standpoint, Quinn probably has the biggest mouth in the group.
He probably does talk. Sure. I believe that. Yeah. He's a talker in some respects. How about Robert Barnes? How was he? He's a transfer guy. How's he kind of developed his last 2 years?
Robert's been great. Robert has come in and he's done everything that we thought that Robert could do as well. Of course, Robert played for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and has a great understanding for what Coach Riley's offenses do. So he's been very helpful, within our room and within our defense for helping us prepare this week. So Robert's been great. He's played inside. He's played outside. We got him at the star position, which is a little bit of hybrid of both, which fits Robert's skill set. He's 6'4". He's about 240 pounds, and he can run and cover, but he's also big and bad enough to fit runs. So Robert is really kind of what a modern-day, linebacker looks like, a guy that can cover in space and fit runs inside.
One of your young guys that flashes every once in a while, Aubrey Smith. Talk a little bit about what he's bringing to the table.
Aubrey, I think he's going to be a great player here. I mean, that was a dynamic recruit for us when we were able to sign Aubrey Smith. He's got some natural instincts and ability that most players don't have. When you're looking and evaluating backers and you see guys that are really instinctive in what they do, Aubrey has those things, and he couples the instincts with just a great, tremendous physical ability as well. I mean, this is a physical, punishing game, and you have to enjoy that part of it to play linebacker, and Aubrey is that person.
Yeah, he's a dynamic. Number 32. Keep an eye out for him for in the years to come. All right, this USC team you're going to face, you got a great challenge here. I mean, this is a dynamic offensive team with some very explosive athletes, aren't they?
It is. That when you look at it across the board, you're trying to find, okay, where is somebody then in there that doesn't quite fit in, that isn't as good as everybody else. You don't find that. I mean, this is a team that is very solid from top to bottom. and it starts at the quarterback position for them. I think he's the best one that we'll face in this league. Probably one of the best in the country overall. You mentioned it earlier with Coach Sanford. I mean, his statistics are just off the charts.
Yeah,
they
startling,
just kind of wow you. And he does. He has that ability to extend the plays, which makes him even more of a threat in what they do on offense.
Does he? Bo Nix last week we talked about his ability to
Yes.
run. Does Caleb Williams run as much as him?
Absolutely. He does. Caleb, he'll get out of the pocket, but what I think Bo does more when he was out of the pocket, he would scramble and look to run. I think Caleb scrambles and looks to throws. They do a great job with their receivers in scramble routes. It's very orchestrated on what they do. He's looking down the field to throw, and he's made some dynamic throws downfield. They got some great receivers in that group, some really good tight ends, a really good running back who transferred in from Oregon. You mentioned all the transfers that they have. He was a great player at Oregon a year ago, Travis Dye. Now he's on the team at USC. So they've done a great job building their scheme around all of the talent that they have.
Mark, with the way that the game has evolved, and especially maybe at the quarterback position, how much has that changed with their ability to move, right, and run and tuck the ball and make plays with their feet? How much has that changed the linebacker play and what you guys do with that position?
It changes everything. If you have to defend all 11 guys versus 10 guys, you need to make sure you have an extra fitter in the run game because they'll run quarterback run game as well. And teams that the quarterback's not a threat to run the ball, you're really playing, versus 10 guys. And it's totally different in your structure defensively and how you have to game plan towards that. But when you have a guy like him who's a true dual threat guy, it forces you to do things a little bit differently to make sure you account for that. Because the one time that you don't have somebody accounted for the quarterback, it can be a big play. So when you play teams like this, you better have a plan for the quarterback run game.
I'm thinking about the way this game has changed, and when I was a young man coming up and watching a guy like Scott Studwell for the Minnesota Vikings, right?
That's right.
I mean that Mike Singletary,
right.
those dynamic, strong middle linebacker types. Is there a place for those guys in modern football anymore?
It's a challenge to find a place for that. Maybe in the Big Ten where the ball's going downhill all the time with a lot of their games, but nowadays it's such a sideline to sideline game, and you have to be able to cover and run to play at the linebacker position. You don't see those cowboy collars like you did back in the day for the middle linebacker just fitting runs and going downhill. If you can't cover and run sideline to sideline, teams will find a way to match you up, and they're going to find their best skill guy to get him matched up on you out in space. Yeah. And so it's changed the game and how you recruit and what you look for in linebackers. So I think there is a place for those guys. Maybe it's fullback on offense now. Yeah. I don't know
which
if it's
also you don't find very often
That's
anymore.
Right. That's exactly right.
I think back to when Jimmy Johnson years ago, there was always that talk about what he did at Miami where he said, okay, we're going to make our linebackers defensive ends. We're going to make our safeties linebackers.
Yes.
It altered everything in terms of the athleticism you have to play.
It did, and that's a great description of what you're looking for, because we really do. I mean, that's a lot of the things that we look for in recruiting. Yeah. You see a guy that maybe you can project at a certain spot because they have a skill set that you like, and then they fit the criteria that you're looking for. So that is something to consider in that. And I think Jimmy Johnson was onto something long before his time with that.
I think so. Yeah. You already mentioned it, but give us a quick thought about Guy Thomas. And
Guy's just been incredible. Number one, he is a great student of the game. I mean, Guy really studies. He knows his ball. He really strives to play with the best technique that he possibly can. And then he's got a motor that just won't stop. And when you got a guy with his physical stature, obviously is the first thing that you notice about him. But then he's such an intelligent football player. He puts himself in the right positions. He's great in his drops. He's great in his run fits. The guy's just a dynamic player. And Mike's right. He's got a chance to play at the next level. And, he is putting himself in position. The way that he's played, especially these last several weeks, he's been more productive than he has all season. A lot of that has to do with our scheme and turning him loose in certain areas to be able to go get those things done. And he has just been an unbelievable teammate, I know, to the rest of the guys in the room, and just a great player. And I'm excited to watch him here these next few weeks.
Well, Friday night, the Buffs will take on the USC Trojans. Mark, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you, Mark.
All right, Mark Smith, linebacker coach for the Buffaloes. The aforementioned Guy Thomas is going to join us next here at the Post Chicken and Beer. It's Buffs Primetime. Back in a moment. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Back one final time here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder and Buffs Primetime. Time for our players segment. Guy Thomas joining us, senior linebacker, Miami, Florida. He had been at Nebraska. He had been at community college, and now he's here with the Colorado Buffaloes. And I know it's been kind of an up and down year for you guys. How have you kind of navigated? You've been through a lot in your career, so you've kind of navigated the changes this season, all right, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. It's definitely been a season where we had ups and downs. But I love the guys in the locker room. I love the guys in my room. So You know, I'm willing to fight. I love every day with these guys. I love game day, preparation. You know, so it's something that I find joy in.
Mark, talk about the way you've grown as a player. Talk a little bit about that in terms of, you know, every player as they get older, they need to understand, they begin to understand it's not just physical, right? You got to think the game of football. How have you evolved, you think, over the course of your time here?
A lot of film study, you know, just studying my opponent, who I'm going to go against, either tackle left or right, what the offense like they do in their run game, how I can get out the quarterback in the passing game. You know, it's a lot of film, just a lot of, you know, doing a lot of things, other things to take care of my body, which is very big for me.
Yeah, it's tougher as you get older, isn't it? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
You're not 18 years old anymore there, mister.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. As you get older, you know, you have to do a whole lot more to keep your body up, to keep your body, so you can be able to compete at a high level. You know, it does take a lot.
How did you get here to Colorado? I mean, how did that ultimately happen?
I would like to say it's just hard work. You know, just being committed to, you know, a dream, a goal, something that I want to achieve. You know, I had a long road before me, and I'm planning on, you know, just sticking with, you know, I guess the process.
Yeah. Hey, do you feel you've been playing your best football here in the last month? They made some changes. Things will be different defensively, and it seems to have freed you up a little bit. Are you feeling that way?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love this defense. I love Coach Chapman. I like the things that he like to do, the things that he want to do with me. I believe Coach Smith, he got me on the right path. Definitely.
Is it important to have a connection with your position coach? Do you have that connection with Mark Smith?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I definitely do have a connection with Mark Smith. He's a great guy. I love him. He tells me that, you know, he believes in me. He wants us to have confidence to play free. You know, this is something that a player wants. So yeah, you know, he's been one of the many coaches that I have had. You know, even here at Boulder, Colorado. But he's definitely a coach that I have a good connection with.
Tell us about your family back in Miami. You come from a big family, a lot of brothers and sisters, or what?
Yeah, a lot of brothers and sisters. My mother had 8 children.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Where do you fall in line there?
I'm the second youngest.
Second, okay, almost a baby.
My mother had 8 kids, 7 boys, 1 girl.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
That poor sister. She's got more protection she knows what to do with, right?
Yeah, but you know, she's spoiled, you know, and she's the favorite, you know.
Sure she is.
Yeah, she is.
Are they all athletes like you or not?
I have an older brother who played football. He played in the NFL, played at Florida State a couple years ago. Just me and him, really.
Okay. Big challenge coming up on Friday night. How do you view a game like that?
Tough opponent. You know, they're ranked. They got a lot of solid guys, a lot of great athletes. You know, for me, it's just the opportunity to, you know, compete against, you know, one of the best teams in the country, against one of the best athletes, you know, in the country. So I'm more than excited to play.
It has been fun watching this guy develop as a player here at Colorado. Good luck on Friday night.
Thank you.
All right. Number 1, Guy Thomas. The Buffaloes will take on the USC Trojans at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. 7:30 is when the kickoff is set for. Gary and I and Sue Campbell going to hit there at 5:30 with the Buffalo Stampede pregame show. As you put a wrap on Buffs Primetime here at the Post Chicken and Beer, this has been Colorado Football from Learfield.